All right, and we are back with Tyler Adams. We'll begin with questions and start with Ryan Talmadge from goal.com.
Hey, Tyler, how's it going, man?
How you doing?
Good, good. I just wanted to ask you just about today, in that, you spend 4 years building up to get to a point where you get to a World Cup, and then you get to today and it kind of find out what that's going to look like. And, at this point, you're just like the rest of us, where you're sitting here watching, a bunch of retired players pick numbers out of boxes and figure out what's going on. So what was it like for you watching on today and learning this path, and how did you kind of handle everything that went with learning what you're going to be doing over the next few months?
Yeah. So for me, the suspense now leading up to the draw had a little bit more emotion than normal for something that, like you said, you wait so long for that moment. And, I've watched draws before, but when you're not playing in it, it doesn't have that suspense, that feeling. You're just waiting to see who the U.S. is going to play. And, now, being a part of something that you've worked towards to earn this draw and be a part of, it's something special. So, when you saw the U.S. get picked and obviously Carly Lloyd was excited to see our country called, it had a great feeling to it.
Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Tyler. What's it going to mean for you to play England? You know how much it's going to mean for so many fans in this country who watch the Premier League sometimes even more than they watch American soccer. You've dealt with a lot of the English media. You've dealt with the media that are based over here that cover the Premier League and European soccer. You know all of it. What's it going to be like for you, especially if you're wearing the captain's armband at that game?
Yeah, again, any game in the World Cup is going to have a lot of meaning. For myself, I was one of those kids that grew up watching the Premier League, watching Arsenal every weekend and watching Thierry Henry, who was one of my favorite players and role models. And, obviously had a big influence on me when he came to New York Red Bulls, the club that I played for growing up. So, to play against England, to play against such a notorious side with so many, big players, talented players, these are the games that you want to be a part of. You get to test your abilities against the best players in the world. So, it will be really, really exciting.
Next will be Leander Sherlockins.
Hey, Tyler. What do you remember about your time in Bradenton when you overlapped with Christian and with Wes? And how do you think that connection you guys built then shaped the national team as it exists today?
Yeah, so I remember my residency days quite fondly. It feels like yesterday that I was moving away from home at 15 years old and, starting a new journey, moving away from the family for the first time, being able to play soccer every day. And, that was kind of my first priority instead of school. My mom wasn't too happy about that, but she allowed me to go anyways. And, for me, the relationships that I built there and the friendships that I built there, I'm lucky to say they do carry over onto the field now. Me and Weston and Christian, being roommates and, living with each other at a young age, we're probably a bit naive. We were living in almost like a fantasy world of just waking up every morning, playing soccer every day. And, we didn't really know where it was going to take us at the time. But we all worked extremely hard to obviously get to the senior national team. And I think you can see when we play together, there's an excitement about our game that, you get to play with guys that, are obviously talented players, but, guys that you grew up playing with and guys that you enjoy being around.
Next will be Bryan Strotz.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Tyler, good to see you again a couple of days later. You talked about the suspense while you're watching the draw. I'm curious if you find yourself, I don't know if rooting is the right word, but kind of hoping for one of two kind of extremes. Are you sitting there thinking, man, I want Mbappe, I want Messi, I want the biggest challenge possible, the toughest teams, the brightest spotlight. I want to have the full experience of what this stage is. Or maybe there's the side of you that might be like, nah, I want the lowest ranked teams possible, the best chance we have to advance. Give me the easiest potential draw that we could have in the World Cup. You find yourself kind of veering one way or the other as you're watching those balls come out.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, the truth is, I feel like, you start to realize now going through processes like qualifying and just watching World Cups before is there's really no easy game. When everyone's playing on such a stage, what you think is going to be the easiest game ends up being the hardest game. So, I honestly didn't have any expectations going into it. I've had a couple Champions League draws now, and I've had what's the group of death where we had Man City and PSG. And then I've had groups that are, quote unquote, a little bit easier, and they didn't turn out to be easier. So, for me, just heading into this, it was just excited to see our country called at the end of the day, to be honest with you.
We'll go to Ron Blum.
Hi, Tyler. Looking at the way the draw came out, do you play in your mind the best way to navigate through the 3 games and what you guys have to do to qualify for the next round? And do you go through the rest of the bracket and think ahead to whether you face like an Argentina or whatever teams or France you could draw in if you keep advancing?
No, to be honest with you, I haven't done too much thinking about the way we're gonna navigate that. I'll leave that much up to the coaches to figure out. I'll just worry about playing.
We'll go to Paul Tenorio.
Thanks, Michael. Tyler, you mentioned, you played Champions League, went to a Champions League semifinal, Christian, a Champions League final, pretty big stages in the game. But this is the World Cup, and it's a totally different beast globally, but also in this country. You guys will play on the opening day of the World Cup. You'll play England on Black Friday. You're going to have massive audience tuning in. Do you guys think about kind of what the implications are for the sport, the kind of that responsibility you have, especially after missing the World Cup in 2018, that you're going to have this moment to maybe really alter the way people think about your team, about the sport in the country, and maybe changing some minds?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how you said it is exactly how I almost think about it. Qualifying for the World Cup is, was a task that we needed to accomplish, and we checked that off. But now is the time where we're going to be able to enjoy this moment as players, to step out on fields first and foremost. But we want to, again, change how everyone looks at us as players and as a nation, and ultimately gain the respect of fans around the world, let alone our own fans. So it's going to be important that now we have the mindset going into this tournament that we have, really good performances. We're not just there to show up. We want to, have an impact, obviously, on ourselves and our team, but ultimately on how soccer is viewed, by the fans in the US after disappointment, after not qualifying for the last World Cup, and then ultimately globally. You want to, gain the respect of, some of the best footballing nations in the world.
Next will be Grant Wahl.
Hey, Tyler, it's good to see you. This was already an unusual World Cup in the sense of what time of year it's taking place in. And there's very little time between when clubs release players and when the tournament starts. And now we know that the US is playing on the very first day of the tournament. So there's not going to be a lot of time together at all. How do you think you'll approach that as players and as a leader on the team with the guys?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think when you look at, theoretically just how all aligned, it's quite different than anything that's happened in the past. So, how to approach it, it's going to be, a lot up to the coaching staff and, how we can fit certain trainings in and the training loads and how all that works. Because, usually when you're coming around mid-season, you're thinking, you have the mindset, let me make it to mid-season, because you're going to sneak in a little bit of a break, you recharge, and then you go again for the second half of the season. Whereas now, you need to make it into mid-season, but, be fresh and be ready to go to now play in a tournament format where, you're going to have more games than normal. So, even for myself, you obviously want to have a good preseason. You want to make sure that you're coming into the season fit. But I think ultimately, this off season is really important, that you get fresh going in, you recover the body, the mind, have a good mental break, and you're able to start the season well. Because, in a tournament setting, I think it's important that you obviously can go into, the World Cup in good form.
We'll go to Claudio Villalobos.
Thank you again, Michael. Tyler, coming from the qualifiers, which obviously you might have felt, or you actually felt this stuff. We only see it from far away. I think I'm right when I said that the roughness of the game was pretty obvious there. And then also you've been on the high level of competition in Europe, especially in Champions and so on. Which one do you expect more to be in the World Cup? More of the same roughness, or is it a cleaner product?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I can't tell you exactly what to expect in the World Cup, but I think you're obviously gonna have a combination of both. You know, so many of the teams that we're playing against, obviously in the draw that you saw, they have a lot of quality, but they're also very combative teams. I mean, people watch the Premier League, week in, week out, and you can see how physical the league is, but you also see how much quality each and every player has. So yeah, we're not exactly sure what to expect, and that's probably a bit naive, but we get to watch these players week in and week out, and I think that's a good thing to give us a little bit of an idea.
Next will be Sanjay.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Tyler. Tyler, just wanted to get to know, how much you're looking forward to the friendlies before Guitar and playing a few non-CONCACAF teams. Greg talked the other night about, getting some friendlies in against teams from other continents. You guys have played almost entirely CONCACAF teams under Greg. So could you talk about, how much of an adjustment you think that'll be, and how much, looking back, I know there's still a little bit of Nations League left in June, but how much overall do you think the team has gained from this CONCACAF experience in the last however many years? Thanks.
Yeah, we've had a few opportunities to play some teams that are not from CONCACAF, but I think most of them were not under Greg. So I think I had the opportunity under Dave Sarakin to play, the likes of France, Ireland, a couple more of those games like Paraguay, etc. And it's always nice when you can have a little bit of a change up and have different competition and not really know what to expect. And not really, have too much to prepare on them. So, for CONCACAF, we've been preparing, over and over for the same teams, and we've played a lot of the same teams, 3 or 4 times now in the past 2-year cycle. So it will be a nice change of scenery to play different opponents, different types of players, and sort of have that preparation pre-World Cup. And, just speaking about the team and how we've kind of developed under Greg is, I think in the beginning, we when Greg came in, he had a firm style of play and how he wanted to play. And I think that, now we've been able to continuously make adaptations to, the opponents we're going to face, to the lineup that we're going to play, which has been able to show our depth, our quality, and also get a look at a lot of different players in our squad and just really show that in different games, we need different types of players. And I think that's been important for the growth of our team.
We'll take 2 more for Tyler and begin with Emily Olson.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Tyler. Thanks for the time. I wanted to, this has been building obviously over the last 4 years, and the last 7 months have been one game at a time. It's something you have all said multiple times. Now that you're at this kind of inflection point, first of all, does 8 months seem like a long time or a short time to you and your perception of how everything's going to go leading up to it? And then now that you have a World Cup and the draw's over and you can see the group, do you feel this extra added motivation to continue top form at club over the next few months here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that if I say 8 months feels like a long time, then it's going to go really quick, and vice versa. So I think it feels like a long time, but I know it will come up rather quickly. So, continuing good form is a natural that you want to achieve in your club. I think being in and playing a lot of minutes is important. But, for a lot of our players now, we're continuing to fight for positions and try to earn our spots. And there's a lot of games until the end of the season. So there will be a lot of minutes that are up for grabs. But yeah, I think that finishing the season is important, and heading into, our friendlies and Nations League and the next couple of windows that we have in preparation for the World Cup are important together.
Last question comes from Andrew Jones.
Thank you, Michael. The Wimpinger wonder that is Tyler Adams with this. How did the Budweiser taste on Wednesday evening from the celebrations, all the reactions on Instagram from Gino Reno saying my dog, Tim Wade calling you legend, Chris Richards calling you my son on there, as well as your thoughts on the dance that Christian Pulisic did with the worm celebration in Panama on Sunday. What were your thoughts in regards to him pulling that?
No, I think the reasoning behind Christian celebration was amazing, and I think that finally shows a side of him that is really, really important. I think the media always wants to portray a certain side of him and the expectations that are put on him, and to see him do that celebration in thought of someone that he met and really hit him deep down was important. So yeah, I think he did a good job on the celebration, especially after coming off a hat trick as well. So yeah, it was good.